Very warm welcome to all of you for joining this webinar. This is a continuation of our business webinars that we do on the third Saturday of every month. And today we'll be focusing on the potential. This game is just starting, the potential of generative AI in business. And let me introduce a speaker that we have for us today, Alok Pant. Alok Pant is the CEO of Houston-based Unvired. He has over 20 years of experience in leading digital transformation projects, extensive experience in business process consulting, sales, marketing, alliances, and product management. He is a frequent speaker at industry conferences and events, sharing his insights on digital transformation, enterprise mobility, and artificial intelligence. Alok has been working with customers to implement both generative AI and predictive AI technologies in the enterprise. He has a master's in chemical engineering and an MBA from Texas A&M University. Before being a part of the founding team at Unwired, he has worked at KPMG, Bearing Point, SAP, and NTT Data. And full disclosure, Alok and I worked together for almost 5 years when we were together at the subsidiary of NTT Data, which was called IntelliGroup. So I've known Alok for a long time here. So Alok, welcome. Welcome to MIU conferences, and over to you.
All right. Thank you, Vikram, for that warm introduction. And I certainly remember very fondly the days that we worked together. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to have an opportunity to share our experience around this very exciting field of generative AI, or just to say Gen AI for short. So today's topic is bridging the gap between human and machine creativity in the context of Gen AI or generative AI. And while we'll discuss, a few things, and I'll go over the agenda, one of the things we will definitely address is the question that is on everybody's mind. I was at a dinner last weekend, and there was a doctor we were talking, and his question was, is Gen AI really going to kill jobs, and how will it affect? So I think this is something that is very pertinent to all of us. So we'll certainly, discuss that in the Q&A. Would love to hear perspectives from everybody. So here is the agenda. We'll give you briefly a quick overview of Unwired so that you understand the context with which I'm sharing my perspectives on Gen AI. We'll discuss, what is Gen AI and why should we all care? We are on the call today. Why is it so important that we understand Gen AI? We'll talk of role of humans in Gen AI because it's going to be critical. Then how are people really using Gen AI? So I'll share several examples from research and also specifically where we are finding how our customers are thinking of Gen AI and thinking of using it. And then, I think one of the key takeaways will be if anybody out there in the audience today, whether you're at a university or you are a student here working at some companies, if you want to start thinking about, okay, how do I start this journey and how do I start creating value at my workplace, we'll share some thoughts around that. We'll discuss various use cases in supply chain, finance, asset management, and 2 specific customer case studies. And then we'll open up for Q&A. All right. So Vikram, just a quick check. Everything is going smoothly, right? You can hear me clearly?
Yes, everything is good. Thank you.
Just making sure. So about Unwired, we are a Houston headquartered company. We really provide digital solutions. We've delivered over 200 digital transformation projects. We don't do everything. Our focus is on, mobility. I think, as Vikram mentioned, automation and AI solutions. And we've impacted several business areas. And most importantly, for today's discussion, we have developed both traditional and generative AI apps. So, so my talk is definitely going to reflect our experience in this area. And to give you a flavor for what kind of work we do, a lot of customers are industrial, and as you can see, some big names, Coca-Cola, and a lot of industrial customers, oil and gas, chemicals. So let's dive into the meat of the presentation now. So let's begin with let's step back. Let's look at the AI landscape. And I'm not surprised anymore, but initially I was very surprised that we're already talking of traditional AI, right? Because AI seemed so cutting edge till a year ago. But today we are talking about traditional AI, and why is that? Because of this new field of generative AI, right? So let's look at the differences between the two. So traditional AI is more of your, predictive analytics, right? When looking at historical data and then trying to make sense of the data and predict. So let's take the example of sales. What were my sales for the last 12 months? and before, and what can I expect, in the future. Or my machine may be breaking down, looking at that data, and could come from various sources and predicting, hey, what should be my schedule to maintain my machines. So that's traditional AI, right? But in generative AI, the key word is new. We are creating new content, right? And it's multimodal content. It's text is what we all kind of started playing with Chat GPT. We all understand how, it's great at creating text, but images, audio, video, everything is being created now, right? OpenAI Sora model, actually, you can just create 60-second videos. You can just say, hey, make me a movie that does this, and a 1-minute video is created. So that's the key thing. And why does it become interesting for us in business school or in the workplace? Is because all this can actually drive innovation by creating entirely new processes to run our business with. So this new content, and we'll talk of the nature of the content, is really going to impact business processes and ultimately the competitiveness, right? If you're looking for a sustainable advantage, this can give that to you. So before we get, dive into deeper, we thought it's a good idea to maybe give you some examples. So we have 2 videos here. The first video is about how executives and managers can get insights more easily. Just type up a question in English language or Spanish or whatever your preferred language is, and it'll search your database and give back the answer. So it's all about business analytics, made easy. And then the other video is about how you can use it to do your knowledge management. So, whether it's a company or a university, everybody has tons of information and videos and audios and documents. And so how can GenAI help us easily find that information so that everybody can collaborate more effectively, right? So let me run the video here.
Introducing Eureka, the GenAI Knowledge Assistant app. Unlock the power of advanced artificial intelligence to effortlessly retrieve information, process documents, and aggregate large amounts of data. But what sets Eureka apart? It's the intuitive data querying feature. Imagine a tool that understands your natural language queries, making data retrieval seamless and efficient. Eureka is trained on a comprehensive database encompassing customers, orders, suppliers, and shippers. This means you can ask questions in plain English and get meaningful results. Want to list your customers? Easy. Need specific details? Just follow up with targeted queries. It's that simple. But Eureka goes beyond just providing raw data. With the power of aggregation, you can consolidate information and visualize results in charts or tables. Transforming complex data sets into actionable insights. And here's the best part. Access control. Eureka ensures that users interact only with the data they are authorized to access. Your information stays secure, and you stay in control. Eureka isn't just a tool, it's a platform that revolutionizes the decision-making process. Welcome to an intelligent way to interact with your data. Ready to experience the future of data querying? Contact us today and take a free trial of Eureka. Introducing Eureka, a GenAI knowledge assistant app that uses advanced artificial intelligence to provide human-like text responses to queries. Eureka's enterprise search feature shifts through countless documents to find the necessary information. With Eureka, it's as simple as having a conversation. You can engage in a dynamic Q&A, and Eureka will analyze vast amounts of data from websites, documentation portals, PDFs, Word documents, and databases to provide you with contextually relevant information. Eureka understands the importance of context and tailors its responses to help you make informed decisions efficiently. But that's not all. Eureka Enterprise Search is a versatile tool with a multitude of use cases. Search for legal and maintenance documents or instruction and installation manuals with ease. Save time and effort by having Eureka summarized documents for you. Say goodbye to information overload and hello to streamlined efficiency with Eureka, your GenAI knowledge assistant. Ready to experience the future of enterprise search? Contact us today and take a free trial of Eureka.
Let's break it down into what we just saw. So let's take a peek behind the magic. So as the 2 videos showed, we searched the GenAI tool was searching for content, right? It can be internal content, it can be external content. So think of all the PDFs you have, the SharePoint documents, the Word documents everywhere. This is a great way to search that data. Also, you can also look for external information in websites and other sources. So again, both internal and external content can be searched very effectively. You can look at data for both structured data and unstructured data. But GenAI actually goes much beyond this, right? All this is brought together to really reinvent business processes. So increasingly, we are finding that GenAI is being embedded already in processes. So for example, SAP has embedded GenAI in their finance, in their traditional finance software. Salesforce is incorporating GenAI in CRM software, right? So that's the power of GenAI, is how you bring all this, the search and the workflow all together to really reinvent processes. And we want to give you one example of a process that is being reinvented in one of our customers. So we'll start with the example of a maintenance assistant, right? So almost every company or a university has assets. You have buildings, you have restrooms, and all these things, and garbage cans on your trash on your fields. Everything has to be maintained. So what the vision or the magic of GenAI in this area is that you can collect all your data. It could be data from your sensors. It could be maintenance requests that a worker has been creating as they are walking around inspecting. It could be images and videos they are collecting as a part of inspection. So all this data is acquired, and then your GenAI tool takes that data and augments the human to do all these different things. So we'll give you a real example here. So this is a chemical company that actually does all this. And today what they have is a bunch of spreadsheets, and they have to collect all this data from sensors and other sources. They enter it in the spreadsheet, and they do these calculations manually. So the vision here is the magic of GenAI would be that all these calculations that are done in Excel are now performed by the GenAI agent seamlessly. So the human doesn't have to do the tedious task of entering data, waiting for the calculation, entering it again. So performing calculation, these could be process calculations, right? Flow rates, pressures, temperature, all those calculations. Also, the agent can suggest how can you troubleshoot a piece of equipment. So today, let's say a pump is cavitating, there's some issues, it's making noise. So people have to struggle through 4 or 5 documents, not sure where the documents are, but GenAI will actually suggest to you based on the past history and what has been described. It can tell you, hey, look at these things first. So that's where we are looking at reinventing this process, and also generating maintenance inspection plans. A lot of times people, anyway, the planners in a company create maintenance plans. They don't start from scratch. They'll take a template and then modify it. So why even do that? GenAI can actually suggest to you based on the piece of equipment, based on what you need to know. Maybe it's a quarterly maintenance plan, right? Instead of annual, it can create those plans for you. So that's how we are seeing how it's reinventing processes. And now let's go one level, let's look under the hood here now. So we saw the video, we saw what needs to be done, how it can reinvent processes, but how do you actually execute this? What is the technology behind it? So it all starts with a user prompt, right? It could be a question like, hey, how do I do this? You could feed in an image, and the model can read the image. So the user input can be in various ways. But before I go dive deeper here, let's explain the fundamental issue here. So all of us want to add value at our own companies, right? Yes, ChatGPT is great. I can search the internet. That's great. But a lot of times, or in most cases, your company, your proprietary knowledge, it could be the videos that you have, it could be the very, the recipe that you have to make a product. You're not going to share that on the internet. So whether it is ChatGPT, OpenAI, all these large language models do not have access to your knowledge base, right? So how do they cannot answer your questions. So that becomes the challenge, is how do we now use it at our company or at our university? And there are a couple of ways you can do this. One is, some of you may have heard of this concept of fine tuning, right? Where you can actually take your sets or your information, question and answer format, feed it into the large language model, give it to ChatGPT, give it to OpenAI, and now they have knowledge, access to your knowledge base, and they can answer questions. But there's a couple of problems here. You don't want to share your information with the outside world, and also security issues, right? There's data privacy, security issues. So a better way to do this, and this is something I would encourage you guys to research if you want, is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, as it's there on the slide. And this is a very, very common approach now to solve this issue of how do I search my knowledge base in a safe, secure fashion. All right, so now I'm going to open up the slide here. So it starts with the user prompt. And as you can see, one of the main components of this is the retriever. And we'll talk about it. Sorry. So, here are the building blocks, if you will. All your knowledge base, right? It could be your videos, audio, your PDF documents, Word documents. They are converted first into a vector database. For our purposes, I think it's enough to understand today that a vector database is a way to represent data that enables more efficient search and retrieval of information compared to a relational database, right? And we can dive in the Q&A more about a vector database, but suffice it to say that you take your knowledge database, convert everything to a vector database, and there are tools to make this conversion easy. This is not a 1-month effort, right? So you can make that into a vector database. The user prompt is also and converted to a vector. And so if I say, hey, what is the torque of this bolt? That's my question. That becomes a vector. That vector question now hits the vector database, and we retrieve information. And what are we doing here? It's a two-step process because it is not feasible to feed your entire vector database into the large language model. And there are two main reasons for this. One is that you cannot input that much content into a large language model. I'll just call it LLM for now. Technically it has limitations. Also, it costs money. The more input you put to the large language model, to ChatGPT, it costs money. So the solution to this is you actually do a first level search of your vector database, and you retrieve, and that's why it's called retriever. You retrieve maybe 5 similar documents, right? It could be 10, you can define it. And this is based on early hybrid algorithms can be done. You can do all kind of sophisticated searching to retrieve the 5 most relevant, let's say, documents. And that is now fed to the LLM, the large language model, which we all know as ChatGPT, OpenAI, and there are other models, right? So you take the prompt and you take the information retrieved from the vector database, let's say 5 documents, prompt plus the enhanced context, you feed it to the LLM. So now the LLM has the question, and it also has the context or the information where the source where it should search. And that's what an LLM does. It's very good at processing, and generating answers. And so then the LLM takes the question, it has the documents to search, and it'll give you back the answer. So this is basically how it works. It's called in-context learning. So let me just summarize this slide one time. So remember that the publicly available models from Microsoft, from Google, they do not have access to your information. So you have to supply that knowledge to the large language model. How do you do that? You do it by using the retriever concept. The retriever finds or retrieves some very relevant documents from your vector database, your proprietary knowledge, and it feeds it to the LLM along with the question. And the LLM now has the question, it has the source of data to search, and it generates the response, all making for in-context learning. So this is really how you would actually implement this in your knowledge base in your company securely, which would not be possible if you did not do it, if you do it just using public data, right? Now, what are the building blocks? So we talked of large language models. So these are ChatGPT, Google Vertex, Mistral. Almost every day, there's a new model coming up. There's a lot of competition here. And that's where one of the roles for humans will come in, and we'll talk about it. So a lot of large language models, vector databases. Basically, as I mentioned, these are specialized databases that take your data and store it as vector embeddings. I won't go deep right now into this. The thing we haven't talked about is prompt engineering. Is very important because the quality of the response or the answer you get back from the large language model is really depends on what question you asked. And remember, the part of the search that we retrieve, the documents we send to the LLM, is also a part of the prompt. So how do you retrieve? What do you send is very critical. In fact, there's some very good job roles for prompt engineers making 6-figure salaries. That's a huge role in itself, prompt engineering. So those are some of the building blocks of GenAI, and you can see some of the common names: Azure, Amazon, Microsoft. Everybody has these tools, right? Hugging Face is something you'll come across. It's an open source model. So those are just to give you a flavor for what's happening in this space. And so now let's shift gears and let's talk about the impact of GenAI, right? And why we should really care. So we came across the study from the Harvard Business Review, that up to 40% of all working hours are expected to be impacted by Gen AI, right? Half the firms want to make an investment in Gen AI. And the reason we should really all focus today is, well, first of all, because it enables us, and it will increasingly enable us to do work in ways we have never imagined before, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg right now. So that's why. So, the sooner we know this, the sooner we can make an impact. Also, from a business perspective, I think most people are aware of the early mover advantage concept, right? If you jump in early here, you can certainly try to get an early competitive advantage. And then there is always the risk that if you don't do anything, and all indications are that this is going to make a big impact, those who don't do right now will be left behind. And I don't think anybody wants to be left behind. So I think those are some of the reasons why we should really care about this. Having said that, what are some of the areas people are using this? So I want to highlight a couple of things here based on our experience also. So technical assistance and troubleshooting we are seeing a lot of this. Customer service chatbots, right? Helping employee, the field service worker, and we saw the maintenance assistant example. Clearly, this whole field of technical service is definitely already being impacted. Content creation and editing, yes. I mean, the core nature of GenAI, it creates content. So we are seeing this being used in marketing, sales, and I guess in video creation, filmmaking, probably, right? So, and then the third area I want to highlight is learning and education. So we were actually talking to the CIO and trying to see, hey, how do we inject GenAI at this chemical company? And they started digging around, and they found that unknown to them, their learning and education department, the training department, was already using Chat GPT, and they were saying they are saving as much as 8 hours in creating an employee onboarding. So clearly, those are some areas where we are ourselves seeing customers, actually playing with it and doing it and embracing it. So here's some real world examples. One of the things is in supply chain. We are working with another company who have actually incorporating or embedding GenAI in supply chain for demand planning. Internal audit, I just came across an article, I forget which, one of the large accounting firms is using GenAI for internal audits, and they are saying how it is saving them work and also making them more effective. Instead of starting from scratch, you can get an 80% document all ready for internal audit, and then you just, then a senior person can review it and finalize it. So those are just a couple. And drafting emails, I know my son uses emails in college to respond to professors. And I was surprised initially. Then I understood that almost all students are using this, right? At work, young people are using email or GenAI to, how do I respond to this question from my boss? This is actually reality. So I think in our personal lives and professional lives, everybody is using, a lot of people are beginning to use GenAI. So I think this is a good segue to AI, and we call it AI calling humans, because we feel there is a big role for humans in this whole world of AI and generative AI. And there are 4 pillars, and we'll go over them one by one. Let me do a quick time check. Okay. So the first one is the most critical role, perhaps, right? Before we do anything, right, whether it's traditional AI, Gen AI, or any other thing in business, it has to start with a business strategy, right? And so whatever we do in Gen AI has to align with the business strategy. That means we need humans who understand, what my business is, what the future plans are, what the competition is doing, and how can AI or Gen AI help me, gain a sustainable competitive advantage. So that starts with the strategy. Then, of course, you have to make sure the data governance is there, right? Because data security and all those issues come up. So do I have a data strategy, a data governance strategy? Because to do any kind of AI, you need data, right? That plumbing has to be there. Then how do I ingest my data, whether it's data, structured data, unstructured data? How do I get into the right platform so that my large language models can now act on the data and give me insights and create new processes for me? And then integration is a very important thing, because all of our information is in enterprise systems, right? Salesforce, SAP, Microsoft. So clearly there has to be a whole integration strategy defined. And then the use case and technology, right? Yes, I'm ready to start my journey, but then where do we get started, right? So the first thing is, We need humans, we need leadership. Both business and technology leaders have to come together to maybe identify 10 use cases that they feel as together jointly they can make an impact. And then how do you prioritize those use cases, right? This concept of value versus risk. Now, you certainly don't want to do or implement a use case that has no value. But at the same time, you cannot start with a use case that is mission critical, because these are early days and there is risk. So there is, I think, a fine line here between identifying value and risk. So people have to figure that out. And then you have to look at the choice of tools and models, because if you as you start to get deeper and you want to get started, questions come up. Hey, do I use OpenAI? Do I use Google? Do I use Mistral? Do I use Llama? These are all different models, right? Somebody has to make those decisions. And then what tools? So there's a lot of tools that have come up to develop applications. Some of you may be familiar with LangChain. If you're not, I would suggest just look into LangChain. That's probably the premier tool for developing GenAI applications. But it's us humans who have to decide, what are we going to do in terms of tools and models, right? And then every day there's advancement here, right? Somebody has to keep abreast and keep an eye on all the latest innovation happening in this area. Now, the third pillar is the risk, right? Probably very, very critical. Because when we talk to CIOs, this thing comes up. Before you talk of, as soon as you start talking of use case and you get excited, they're like, hey, let's take a step back. What about the risk strategy, right? Do we understand this? So what are the elements of risk when it comes to Gen AI? First of all, let's start with this notion of responsible AI that has now that most people have embraced. So first rule is that AI should not do any damage, right? Gen AI should not do any damage. So what does this mean? Responsible AI, it means that the models that we deploy should not have any bias, right? The decisions that we make, whether we should approve somebody for a loan or not, if a Gen AI is making that decision, it should not be biased towards any demographics or any race or any income levels, right? It has to be very fair. So those are things. Then the concept of hallucinations. Let's all recognize that these models have answers. They are not 100% correct. Sorry, they make errors. And that's what we mean by hallucinations. That refers to the fact that many times a model can give you back wrong answers. So one has to mitigate hallucinations. And then, of course, data security, right? Questions about, should I deploy this totally on-premise? Should we use a private cloud? Should we use a public cloud? Humans have to decide what the risk appetite for a company is, what the nature of the data is, and what's the fine line, because there are trade-offs, right, between the way you deploy. So the risk mitigation, the risk strategy is something we have to figure out as humans. And then, of course, the last pillar, which is enabling readiness and deployment, right? So the first thing is about people. And one has to kind of look at our people, at our skills, data skills, and see, hey, do we have people who understand data? How will we upskill people in Gen AI, in AI, right? So that whole readiness concept of making sure that our workforce is ready and armed to understand and deploy Gen AI is going to be a very critical role for talent managers, CEOs, and other business leaders. Redesigning jobs for Gen AI, right? If we have to make a significant impact at our organizations, we'll have to redesign jobs, right? What does that mean? That means somebody has to analyze all the tasks, the steps in a job, and see which of those can be recomposed for Gen AI. Not everything can be recomposed, right? But there would be many, at least half the work can be recomposed for Gen AI according to the research. So somebody has to sit down there between HR leaders and business leaders. We have to redesign jobs for Gen AI. We have to optimize for cost and scalability. Let's say you deploy the first Gen AI project. That may not be very costly. But if you deploy 5 such projects and you deploy it for a global 100,000 people company, those costs can add up. Because remember, whenever you ask a question and you get back the answer, what's called, you pay money in terms of tokens, right? Token is the unit of cost. So one has to optimize it in your deployment. So somebody has to think about that. And again, let's not forget about the life cycle, right? Gen AI apps are just like any other apps we have in business. They are kind of designed first, they are developed, and then they are deployed and they are maintained over the life cycle. Because some of the things that happen, and GenAI specifically, is that the model that you have deployed will drift. It's not a question of if. Models drift over time. That means their performance deteriorates. So you have to constantly evaluate the models, right? And if a model, today's model may not work, may not be the best model for you a year from now. So you may have to either update a model or replace a model. And then the cost, right? How you're deploying the costs, you have to make sure the infrastructure you're deploying, the GPUs, the cloud you're choosing, it's all being continuously cost optimized. So those are, I think, the 4 pillars where we feel there's a big role for humans in GenAI. So then that brings us to the question is, so how do we as workers, and because most of us are workers, right? Either we are working at a company or we are teaching people how to be more effective workers. It will impact everybody. It'll impact both the educator and the learner. And so understanding the opportunity is very important. So what can GenAI do? It can certainly suggest solutions faster than us, not just faster, but also solutions that humans cannot think of, right? That's the power of GenAI. However, our experience and unique perspectives will continue to be crucial, right? Because GenAI, at the end of the day, does not understand the business context or the competition that is happening that I'm facing at a particular moment in time. So that's where all of us, our human experience, business experience, unique perspectives become very, very important. And AI for sure cannot replicate the years of first-hand experience and people, wisdom that we all have gathered. So what does that mean? So we would suggest we set learning goals, right? So all of us, and I started this myself about 6 months ago, we need to start getting understanding of basic fundamental AI knowledge, Gen AI. We talked about some of the building blocks. What is a vector database? What is an LLM, right? All those things. How do you, implement this cost effectively? What are the risk issues here? Let's start understanding those different issues. And then also industry specific. If I'm a pharma company, for example, can I use this for new product development, right? Can GenAI think of, I guess, molecule combinations that, humans just cannot simply think of? So how does it apply to my in particular industry? Understand technical and ethical limitations. We talked about model bias, right? Things like that. How do we begin to understand models? And then explore emerging trends and future applications, right? What is the potential magic that GenAI can enable? Whether it's a maintenance assistant where you can, do things more easily and things that you've never done before, or other areas, And as I said, there's so much innovation happening that in your learning, what has to be, how do I keep up with everything happening? And then practice, right? Practice makes perfect. That's how we get better. So let's start with incorporating AI into our personal lives. Let's all get a OpenAI account, ChatGPT account, start playing with it. Maybe compose a poem for your family members. Don't cheat, but maybe you make a poem, but then improve upon it. So that's how I think you can start bringing it into your personal life. Interacting with AI chatbots, a lot of companies have already deployed, customer service chatbots. You can start using them in your day-to-day life. That should give you, more experience with, hey, how does GenAI really work, the impact it can make. And then we also need to also understand what are the limitations, right? Because AI is magic, but it's still not, 100% magic. So you have to also understand the limitations. And then let's all of us be mindful of privacy and ethical considerations as we deploy these apps in our environment. So what are the key takeaways? I think the key takeaway, and especially from our experience to working with customers, is that generative AI, GenAI is here to augment. It is not going to replace people, right? It's going to augment because it's going to create new ways we are going to do. It's going to create new jobs, right? I'm not saying here it will not make any impact. Some jobs will probably go away and some jobs will evolve, but it's not going to replace humans, right? Because new jobs will be created, like technologies before. Leverage your expertise to provide valuable context. So when a GenAI tool is being deployed, right, the workflow or what is practical, what is acceptable from a risk perspective, all these decisions will have to be made with your expertise. And then, proactive learning. There's a lot of free tools you can learn, you can use to learn. So I think those are the key takeaways. Is here to augment. I think that's one strong message we want to leave behind. And then let's look at value creation from GenAI. So if there's anybody in the audience who's like, yeah, we've been reading about GenAI and I get it, and I want to start seeing how I can start using it to create value in my enterprise. So here is, I think, there are 7 steps that we have. So first of all, you have to align your AI strategy with your business strategy, right? Once you've kind of aligned, okay, align the strategy, then define AI governance, right? So this is where you have to define your data governance, your risk governance, all those things. So your security, am I going to deploy it on-premise, or am I okay going with the cloud? So that whole AI governance, which takes care of security, risk, and all those things, have to be thought through. Once you've done that, I would call it, once you've done your basic hygiene, you've taken care of that, let's now identify, working with business and IT together, some various use cases, right? Am I going to start with finance or asset management or supply chain? All there should be a brainstorming session, and list them out, and then one has to prioritize them, right? And then how do you prioritize them? You can rank them according to 2 main criteria. What is the value it can give a particular use case versus the risk? Remember, we talked about the balance between value and risk. So I would say a rating that falls somewhere, good both on the risk and the value. Select that one use case and then deploy a pilot or a proof of concept. Once you deploy the pilot, proof of concept, maybe running it over 1 to 2 months, right? You could do more also, but measure the impact, right? Did it really do what our goals were, what our KPIs were with respect to the pilot? Once you measure the impact, then you deploy it in production, right? Because now you can start seeing the benefit or the impact, real impact. Deploy it in production, what does this mean? That means now you're deploying it in an infrastructure. It could be on a server at your own premise, or you could go to a cloud, Microsoft, wherever. But now you're deploying it in a production environment. Where that means you're also making sure it's scalable. If 10,000 people are going to make queries, you need to make sure the infrastructure is sufficient to handle it. You need to make sure that your costs are aligned. You understand the cost that would happen if you are doing volume working at that level or that scale. And then finally, talking about the life cycle, we talked about it. The AI ops is where now you are constantly evaluating your model evaluation, model updates, you're making sure that the risk is maintained, all those things, the operational piece of it, right? And then it doesn't stop there. So it's the whole cycle. Now you've done it. And now you've proven your first pilot, your first product is successful. You've got the business value. Everybody loves it. The CEO, CIO, leaders are happy. Now you deploy your second GenAI project and you go through that whole cycle again, right? Now you have the use case already and you've done the strategy already, but now, deploying it in production, measuring the impact, and it keeps going, right? And the idea here is that over time, the value that you derive from your GenAI projects, will continue to accelerate. I'll finish it in 3 minutes. Let's keep it quick. So there are a lot of use cases. Knowledge management is one of them, where you can search any kind of content, right? And then we have processes. We talked about GenAI reinventing processes, right? So we are actually seeing customers, and we talked about asset management. We gave you some real example, but supply chain management, software development, we are ourselves playing with it, sales and marketing, and then customer service. I think that article showed that 23% of people or companies are using this in the service area. Email assistant for salespeople, training and development. I talked about it. This is a big use case we are finding. Companies are adopting. And I'm going to go quickly here, maybe spend a minute on these case studies, then we'll close it. So these are 2 case studies where customers we are actually working with. So this is an oil and gas company, global company based in Texas, and very interesting use case. So it's basically, they came to us, and they said that, what, we want to use GenAI to actually remove some of the tedious tasks that our people have to do, right? So they're embracing GenAI here, not afraid of it. And here is the before scenario. So what happens is every year the federal government updates tariff rates when you're shipping gas from Oklahoma to Texas, for example. And for 2 months or every year, there is this person, one FTE, whose only task is to look at all these hundreds of PDF documents, look at what has changed, not easy to find out. And once figure that out, and then put it into an invoicing system. And now the magic they want to incorporate is a GenAI tool extracts all the rate data from PDF, everything that has changed, and automatically put those new rates into the invoicing system and save time as much as 50%. So this is one case study that we are doing. And the other one is a chemicals company where they're doing document search before for maintenance, very, very tedious and not sometimes leads to unsafe conditions. And really using the example we talked about, using a GenAI app to really effectively search for information, do repairs not only faster, but in a safer fashion, right? And they want to evolve to the concept of maintenance assistant where it really does magic, where really they want the worker to be in front of a piece of equipment, take a picture, and everything else happens from there. And we can talk in details later, but that's pretty much it. I want to stop here so we have enough time for question and answers.
Hi, Alok. Thank you very much. I'm Dennis Heaton, and I'm the Dean of the MIU College of Business. And from the perspective of thinking about teaching management, I thought a couple of your slides were very relevant and could suggest new curriculum for our College of Business. Particularly liked the slides about AI calling humans and also value creation from AI. We have a course that Anil Maheshwari is developing and will be taught next year called applications, particularly business applications of AI and machine learning. But I think we could have another course on the executive control, the managing and deploying issues that are business decisions, but particularly incorporate AI into business strategy. Well, I guess the question is, can you help us to create and execute such a business course?
Sure, Dr. Heaton. Thanks for that feedback. Yeah, I would love to collaborate with your team and help you define the course. Yeah, short answer is yes, would be very happy to do so.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. We'll follow up.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. One of the questions that we have from Kishore is, are there examples of AI self-learning playing a role in the life cycle management of AI applications, or will it in the future?
Yes, absolutely. There is and I didn't talk about it, but yeah, inherent in all that Gen AI getting better with time is, yes, there is definitely a lot of self-learning here because at the end of the day, Gen AI is powered by, machine learning on steroids, as I like to call it, right? So the reason that all this can be predicted is because there's all kind of machine learning happening, and at the heart of machine learning is self-learning. Yes. So in fact, to give you an example, in a customer service scenario where you're using it, what happens is that the chat bot actually keeps track of the conversational history and it's self-learning. And every time a new user is asking the question, will be asking a question, it's giving a better answer because the self-learning is happening in the background. So yes, because Gen AI is at the core machine learning, and self-learning is definitely incorporated very much into it.
Wonderful. We also have a question from Suresh, which is the best LLM model now? As you said that the model is changing rapidly. What is good today may not be good in a year. How can you ensure that you are flexible enough to always use the best LLM for your case?
Right. And that's where the humans come in, and that whole in that cycle of AI ops management. So there is no easy answer. So there's a lot of tools actually that have been developed to evaluate models. Okay. So there is a whole 10, there are all, just like any other thing you have to measure. So there, and I don't remember the names of the tools we can send you. There's something called leaderboard where you can do a Google search and you can actually see which models are best in which area, and because there are people and tools that are evaluating these models, right? So the answer is that you will have to leverage some of the tools that are already out there that evaluate models. Also, there are already people and analysts publishing which models are top at maybe every month on a frequently updated basis. So you'll have to, and also thirdly, you'll have to play on your own. When you're deploying projects, you'll have to use these tools to evaluate the models for yourself over time. And there is no best model For example, there is also the new notion of small language models coming up, right? Because large language model, the larger the model, the more it costs. So now the whole concept of small language models is coming. So it really depends on your use case. If your use case does not need a LLM, a large language model, and you can use a smaller model, then you should use a smaller model, right? And that will cost less. So this is a constantly evolving field. And I would suggest, be aware of the ratings, be aware of the tools that you can use to evaluate the models for yourself. It will keep changing. You have to keep abreast of it. It's a part of that whole AI ops job.
Wonderful. Another message from Catherine here is, are there any free or inexpensive generative AI software that you know of that could be used by students or for personal use?
Yeah, I can mention a couple, but I'll do is I'll talk to our chief technology officer and I'll send to Vikram the best answers. So yeah, there are some open source models. I believe Mistral is one of them. Llama Index from Facebook is there. And there are others. Hugging Face has a lot of open source models. So why don't I do this? Let me talk to our CTO and give to Vikram, I guess, and Natalie the answers here. So they can share it with you. I made a note of that. Open source models that students can start using.
A question from Bruce is, if data is small enough, do we need the step of going to vector database?
Yes. So let me explain vector database. It's not about the speed. The vector database is about making the search more effective and more efficient, right? So I'll give you an example so maybe that will understand better. So how do we create a vector database? So let's say I have an app, the word apple and the word banana and third word building. So what we do is in a vector database, you create vector embeddings, right? And there are tools to make this easily happen. So what happens is the word apple gets a number. It's a numerical representation, let's say 9.1. All right. And a banana will get 9.2 because they are both fruits. They are close to in numbers. And building will become, let's say, 12.5 because it's far away from a fruit. And the way the vector database search happens is that you basically calculate the distances between these points. And so the distance between apple and banana in a vector space, right, will be lesser than between building and apple. And so the search is much more efficient than just doing a keyword search. And so the notion of the vector database is that the numerical representation of high dimensional data is done in a much better fashion so that you can retrieve data more efficiently. It's also called a semantic search, but net vector database is there to enable better searches, not because of the speed or size of your data.
Hi, I'm Dr. Goodman, and I have a course in business communication skills that I teach, and I have been thinking about how to present AI to the students. And I wanted to say to you that just as Dr. Heaton was talking about creating content and so forth, I find that the style of your presentation is very practical and very accessible. And therefore, I can see that it is valuable even from an introduction to an undergraduate class. They would understand what you've been saying. I understand what you've been saying, and it's been beyond me up until now to see about AI. And you've explained it in such a clear way that I feel I have grasped the wholeness of it. So I wanted to appreciate you for this capability that you have. And thank you very much.
Oh, Dr. Goodman, thank you for those kind words. You made my day. I mean, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And by the way, just a quick comment on that. And Dr. Heaton was also saying, I would love to collaborate with all of you. Maybe we can even get one of our customers to add some, customer perspective to make the course interesting. So would love to work with you folks to make a course that can make an impact to students.
Wonderful. I have another question here from Robbie. What is your take on most of the powerful models coming from open source community and its implication for AI future in every forefront?
Yeah, so we are working a lot with open source models. Our CTO is working a lot. So we are playing with it. They are very good. I think they foster competition, right? The open source community and so much innovation is happening, not just the models, but the tools that are coming up. So in our projects, we are ourselves using open source models. Having said that, there are some customers, though. I'll give you some real examples. So we have a lot of customers in the business, right? They are already wedded to Microsoft technology. They've been using Microsoft for years. And one of the things we find is they want to use Microsoft OpenAI in a private cloud perspective because they just feel comfortable from a risk perspective, right? They don't want to take the risk of open source models, and so we are finding both things. There are companies we really like open source. At the same time, large corporations like the comfort of using Microsoft OpenAI because they know that they are safer there, at least perception wise.
Here's one more question is in your slide about responsible AI, I think it also ties closely with the concept of explainable AI and its significance in ensuring transparency, accountability, and trustworthiness in AI systems, particularly in high stakes domains like healthcare, finance, and criminal justice. I work with nonprofit organizations in helping them extend their cloud footprint. I'm curious, based on your discussion with executives who are considering creating that Gen AI space in their organizations, what are some current challenges that keep coming up, and what are some of the promising approaches you can refer them to in developing explainable AI models?
Yes, so I think what we are finding is that the model providers themselves, Microsoft, Google, they have no choice, and so they are trying to make the models more explainable because nobody else can understand. I mean, only the guys who are making or people who are building these models can understand it. And sometimes, frankly speaking, that's why people are worried. Even they don't know because you're looking at billions of computations happening, right, in this machine learning model. So, but they are making an attempt because people want it. They are making an attempt to explain the models. I haven't personally tried to understand any model. What we are finding with companies is they are saying, hey, we want to define our AI strategy, and a part of that is responsible AI. But I have not so far, and I hope to have them soon, I have not so far had any direct discussion about where a customer is saying, hello, help us understand or explain, help us understand how this model can be explained. That question hasn't come up. People want to be, I think they're going to trust. They're leaving it to the model providers to give that information more and more as far as explaining the model. But I think in going forward, because these are early days, there will be a role at every company in that whole risk governance or AI governance role, where they would at least at a high level understand the model. That is clear. But I don't think anybody's there right now. It's too early to really start understanding models.
Yeah, and if I might just add to that, Shweta, to your question, I think the areas that you have spoken about, um, high stakes again, healthcare, finance, and I'm looking at finance as the higher end of finance, criminal justice. These are all areas which are, you know, a mistake is not just a hallucination. A mistake can change a person's life, and you really need to be. It's not just about the explainable part of the AI model, it's also a sense of is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to completely remove the human from that thing? Or should the human always be there and AI is only a crutch? AI is only a support system which doesn't ever get implemented until it goes through a very strong human interface. So I think that's a discussion that will continue to happen. People will try to explain the models more and more, but like Alok said, the models themselves even the creators of the models are getting now worried that they can't explain their own models the way those models have started performing and performing exponentially. So in certain areas, you will have to have a very strong human interface before decisions prompted by AI get implemented into real life.
And closing thoughts are that, there's a lot of people in the business school, right? And you're working with companies and on. So I would just want to tell everybody that AI, Gen AI, these are exciting times. A lot of companies are deploying them. So this is a great opportunity for all of us, whether it's teaching students or students learning and deploying it. This is not going to replace us, at least for now. It's going to augment. So great opportunity. And again, thank you for the time, your time and opportunity to present to this audience today. Thank you very much.
And if I just may add, I just want to thanks Alok, thank you so much. This was really informative and very well done. I just want to tee it up for the next month. So next month, which is May 18th, we are planning to have a session on data. So today we focused on AI. We're going to focus on data, and our speaker is going to be the CTO of a very large fintech company, a global fintech company. He's a CTO for that, has many years of experience doing data at scale. I work for large big bracket banks, and we'll understand data from a business perspective in terms of how the implications of data have changed. not just big data and stuff like that, but looking at data in terms of, as people say, data is the new oil. What does that really mean, right? And how AI and data working together is going to create that different landscape for us. So stay tuned for the next month seminar. I think it's on the May 18th. You'll get information, but that seminar will focus all on data in business. All right. Thank you so much to all of you for joining. Alok, thanks again for taking time to create this thing. And yes, I think given what Dr. Heaton and Dr. Goodman have said, this is, I think, a beginning of a relationship here. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks to everyone. Natalie, thank you for hosting us. And till next month, take care and goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Bye now.